as a former trade representative of Thailand, there's no doubt that you are an advocate of free trade and international cooperation, right? But do you think the Thai government made the right decision in not trying to rush to join the CPTPP before having a full reviews of the pros and cons of the membership of the pact? Of course, you know that the proposal to join the club was withdrawn from the cabinet meeting last minute, a few weeks ago. So what is your how you see this?
Yes, I follow this very closely because actually when it started back in 2009, proposed by the U.S. At the time, I was in my job as the president of Thailand Trade Representative, and I had the privilege of having the first-hand discussion with Ambassador Ron Kirk, who is the USTR, on this issue. You know, TPP, and now we call it CPTPP, as I would say a roller coaster ride. It changed so much from day one at its conception to what it is now. Now, back to Thailand. I don't think we have a lot of time to talk about history, but what's going on in Thailand is that I believe any free trade agreement, you always have winners and you always have losers. And it's so important that the government understand who would be affected by the trade agreements, by trade or the liberalization agreement, and come up with some adjustment programs. If it's clear and it's known, budget is set aside, then it should be supported even by those who might be affected by it. But you can see that we have had some cases in the past where we started the negotiation, it didn't go well, and in the end we have to leave the negotiation table. The case in point is the agreement with the United States, and it has always been because that the whole process is not quite transparent. Those who are affected or who might be affected by it do not understand what is the effects, what would be the support policy by the government. So, you know, you cannot move forward without having all the stakeholders supporting you. And they can only support you if they know what you plan to do with the case, especially the case that some of the stakeholders are affected.
No, but in this,
in the case of CPTPP,
that's right. Yeah, please.
I think there are two major contentious issues. One is about the seats under UPOF, the agreement, a convention on how you are protected or you are you can register and get protection on your seats for agricultural sector. And the other one is the access to cheaper drugs. I think based on the comments that I have seen by the stakeholders, some of the comments is based on the misinformation, but some is very genuine. But it's the role of the government to come out and say what they plan to do about it. It's not just to say to the stakeholder who might be affected that it's okay for you to be affected. That's not okay. You know, that's not the way the government should do. So I would say that the fact that the government at this point by the cabinet minister meetings decided to not move forward, you know, during the time where there are a lot of conflicts in terms of information, in terms of supporting the move of the government, I think is wise. We need perhaps at this point take a step back, go back to discussions with stakeholders and come up with a good understanding. I have worked with FTA Watch Group. I have worked with many NGOs groups related to trade agreements, and I find them very, very useful. They're very reasonable, and I never have any problem working with them.
Mm. So it means the government should have listened more to this group of people, right?
Should have more discussion and more communication, not just one-sided information.
Uh-huh. But
The government has a job to address the concern of the people, of the stakeholders. So that has to be done. That has to be part of the process. And they have to feel confident that they're not left out.
Yeah. But Kun Kiat, besides some of the disadvantages you just have pointed out, I mean, there are concerns that the current pandemic has raised questions about the future of globalization and international trade cooperation, because people believe that things are not going to be the same again. Borders will be closed. I mean, less overseas investments and probably more restrictions on labor immigration. So there are people who believe that why don't we wait? We don't need to rush into joining this pact. We wait until things are clearer, until this pandemic is over, and then let's sit down and see things with clearer eyes. Yeah. How do you see that?
Well, that kind of thought may be right or may be wrong. Mm-hmm. And that's a challenge about COVID-19. At this point in time, even the best economists, the most experienced trade people cannot predict what's going to happen in the future and by when. I don't think we would have any wise answer until we have come to the stage where we have the antivirus serum. It's impossible to determine what's going to be, what the future is going to be. But one thing we know for a fact is that global citizens need food. And Thailand has the advantage of being a food exporting country. Is one of the top food exporting countries. So therefore, we have that advantage. But of course, other areas of economic will be affected. Harvard Business School already predict a very significant downturn or a recession of economy this year. And they said this is the mother of all crises, because it's going to be so severe as compared to the crisis after the World War I or even the crisis of 2008, 2009. And we don't even know where the bottom of the cliff is. So this is an unknown territory. However, what we have seen in global environment is that everyone is resorting to protectionism more and more. But still, they need food, they need trade, they need economic development. So to shut down from the whole world, it's just simply impossible. And for those countries who actually resort to protectionist measures, they would realize soon enough that they would be suffering more than others. So there is no doubt that there will be this kind of sentiment, protectionist sentiment. Some government use this opportunity to be more dictatorial, more authoritarian. That's happening in many countries. But at the end of the day, once the dust settles, I think everyone has to come back to continue with the economic development.
And Kun Kiat, how do you see impact of trade and on supply chain, impact of COVID-19 on trade and supply chain and Thailand?
The best estimate that I have seen, I looked at IMF, World Bank, and also the Harvard, put together a team of very high power professors and traders to discuss about this. And the prediction is not a very rosy picture at all. I think the best case scenario, the trade will be minus 10% this year, meaning that's the best case. And the worst case for this year, it will be minus 30%. So we'll trade less than last year by 30%, or the best case is 10%. And the overall economic growth for this year is predicted to be minus 3%. So everybody would be affected. most exporting countries, including Thailand, their trade, which constitute a major portion of their economic activities, would be affected. Unfortunately, there is no cure, but that's why domestic policy is extremely important as to what the government is now doing with limited cash they have in hand. Everyone needs to borrow more money. All countries need to do that. And for Thailand, we are doing 1.9 trillion. In United States, they're doing 25 trillion US dollars. So different countries use different measures, different policy, different scales. But at the end of the day, it depends on the policy and how efficient that they address the cure, basically the cure of the right disease. So we have to be very careful. We don't have a lot of money. We have limited supply of money. It has to be used wisely. It cannot be used randomly, and it should reach the people that need it the most.
And do you,
please, yeah.
Do you mean Thailand should try to focus more on local economy? Can you enlighten us from trade representative viewpoint? Would it be possible that Thailand focus on local economy?
At this point in time, your house is on fire. You have to extinguish first. Okay? So it means the policy has to be tailored in such a way that you have to minimize people that would be kicked out of their job. You have to make sure that the worst case scenario, everybody should have food, should have possibility for their meals. You have to make sure that we don't have the case where people have to commit suicide because they don't know what to do. They have no one to turn to. So I think this is extremely important. And if you look at all the policy measures, I monitor them in Asia and also worldwide, with also in Europe and North America. We are all doing we are using similar kind of policy measures, but how effective each country achieve from their policy, they are quite different. I think at this point in time, if I want to be candid about what I've seen in Thailand, is that some of the initiatives are very good. There is no doubt about it, but it has yet to be proven that it reached the people that needed it the most. For example, a special loan to SMEs. I just spoke with the bank managers a couple of days back and said, does it reach the people that need it the most? And the answer, unfortunately, is not all of them that reach those who need it. So therefore, we have to monitor and also adapt some of our programs to make sure that those who need it the most actually get help from the government.
Yeah, couldn't get back on the issue of CPTPP. If you are to be asked for advice, what would it be for the government to proceed on this pact? After all, the Commerce Minister, Kun Jurin, is a leader of your party. Sooner or later, will come to you for advice.
Well, we have had some discussion, and unfortunately, the way decision is made on this particular case, that we have external economic committee under the chairmanship of the Prime Minister and Deputy Prime Minister Somkit. When I was a trade representative, I was also part of that external economic committee, who actually made all the decision about which country we would negotiate with, what sort of framework, what is a strategy, who would be the negotiator for each specific cases. So unfortunately, this time, I believe that the decision to actually move on or to submit the document the proposal to the economic cabinet minister meeting was done, and unfortunately, some of the concern of stakeholders have not yet been addressed. That's the unfortunate part about it.
Okay.
Now, during my time, I discussed before I submit the proposal to cabinet meeting. Unfortunately, this is not the case this time. And with the COVID-19, I think they have time. Okay. They don't have to rush. And take time. Discuss with your stakeholder. It's very important. Seek their support.
Yeah.
And there are always solutions.
Yeah.
As a trade negotiator, I operate on the belief that everything is negotiable.
Yeah.
So I believe that the existing members of the pact will be having the annual meeting in August, during which they would take up any proposals or applications for new membership. So you don't think Thailand need to rush to meet that August deadline this year, right?
Well, to put things in perspective, the total members of CPTPP at this point, there are only 2 countries that we don't have any trade agreements with, and that is Canada and Mexico. Okay. So before this, I was the one who initiated the free trade agreement talk with Canada, hoping to use it as a backdoor into NAFTA. And that negotiation framework is still there. So we have a choice to continue or go back to do the free trade agreement with Canada. They're happy to do it. Actually, the delay was on Thailand's side, not on their side. So we can do that while we're waiting to discuss with our stakeholders. And we could move things forward. We could continue the discussion with EU, which I initiated as well. There are lots of things that are on the table that is so beneficial to our country. So CPTPP is useful. It can be useful, provided that you negotiate with the right strategy and you have the full support of the stakeholder. And don't do it because overall picture is we are better off. And it's never like that in trade negotiations. You have to address those who might benefit from it and also those who are affected from it. And you must have good solution for those affected in particular.